Star Trek, Section 31 Review. I wanted a bit more Star Trek from Michelle Yeoh's otherwise fun sci-fi adventure. The first Star Trek film since 2016's Star Trek Beyond, Star Trek. Section 31 is a Trek film unlike any other. Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh returns as Emperor Philippa Georgiou, who debuted in Star Trek Discovery's first season. The series updated Star Trek for modern streaming television and launched the franchise into an exciting new era. As Georgiou is one of Discovery's most captivating characters, it seems fitting she should lead Star Trek's return to film. The film centers around a team of Section 31 agents who recruit Georgiou to help them stop a dangerous new weapon. Star Trek Section 31 follows a somewhat familiar plot, combining a spy thriller with futuristic sci-fi action. In Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Emperor Georgiou was sent back in time by the Guardian of Forever. She ended up in the early 24th century, running a nightclub located outside of Federation space. Often referred to as Star Trek's Lost Years, much about the early 24th century remains a mystery, and Section 31 does not spend much time answering questions. Despite being a Trek film, Section 31 feels disconnected from the larger universe, even as it delivers an entertaining sci-fi action-oriented story. Emperor Georgiou's past catches up with her in Star Trek Section 31. The film opens with a flashback to Emperor Georgiou's childhood, setting up a focus on her supposed redemption arc. This story, however, never quite works. For one thing, Star Trek Discovery already gave Georgiou a strong redemption story, one that benefited from the longer runtime episodic television provides. Section 31's opening scene also makes Georgiou even more difficult to root for. The young Georgiou becomes emperor by poisoning her entire family, and although it's implied her family would have been killed anyway, this doesn't make her an endearing character. As someone who has seen Georgiou's history on Star Trek Discovery, I can't say how newcomers to Trek will react to her as a character, but the opening flashback is a jarring way to introduce her. Fans who have seen Georgiou's Discovery arc may find more to like in Section 31 than those who have not. The film only offers brief glimpses into Georgiou's time as Emperor of the Terran Empire, whereas Discovery viewers got to watch her grow and change throughout 3 seasons of the show. The idea for Section 31 initially began as a spin-off series, and there are times when the film feels like a collection of scenes from a much larger story. Section 31 sets up Georgiou's story, but then muddies it by trying to fit too much into its 100-minute runtime. Perhaps this is left over from the story's beginnings as a series, but it makes it difficult to connect with much of anything that is happening. None of the big reveals are particularly shocking, and none of the deaths, of which there are a surprising number, have the effect they should. Star Trek Section 31 is a fun, if somewhat hollow sci-fi action movie. Part of Section 31's problem is there are too many characters, and the film is too short for us to get to know them. Team leader Alok Omari Hardwick gets a brief backstory with interesting connections to Trek history, but his teased romance with Georgiou feels out of place. Sam Richardson's Chameleoid Quasi and Starfleet LT Rachel Garrett Casey role are the two standouts, and I hope to see more of them in the future. As the only Starfleet officer on the team, LT Garrett keeps things feeling more like Star Trek when the film's franchise connections feel tenuous. Michelle Yeoh's long-awaited return to the Star Trek universe in Section 31 brings with it the kinetic charm, gravity-defying action, and commanding presence we've come to expect from an actress of her caliber. The film is sleek, smart, and stylish, equal parts espionage thriller and high-concept sci-fi romp. But somewhere beneath all the whirling blades and secret plots, I found myself yearning for just a little more. Trek. Let's be clear, Section 31 is fun. From its opening moments, where Emperor Philippa Georgiou, Yeoh's mirror universe badass, descends into the shadows of Starfleet's most secretive organization, the tone is clear. This isn't a story about diplomacy, exploration, or the hope of a better tomorrow. It's about intelligence operations, moral gray zones, and the cost of doing what's necessary when no one's watching. It's Star Trek's Black Ops division finally getting its own spotlight, and it leans all the way into that identity. The problem? That identity isn't very Star Trek. That's not to say the franchise hasn't dabbled in this territory before. From Deep Space Nine's clandestine dealings with Section 31 to Discovery's own ventures into the murky corners of galactic politics, The groundwork has always been there. And yes, Star Trek has never shied away from questioning its own ideals. But Section 31, for all its glossy action and narrative ambition, seems a little too happy to discard the core tenets that made Trek iconic. Michelle Yeoh, of course, is the standout. She breathes fire into every scene, delivering martial arts choreography that rivals the best of modern action cinema. Whether she's dismantling enemies in zero gravity or cold reading an adversary across a diplomatic table, she owns the screen with a confidence that's electric to watch. Her Giorgio is still deliciously complex, part redemption arc, part ruthless survivor, and always a little unpredictable. This is Yeoh's playground, and she runs circles around the lesser characters orbiting her story. The plot follows a classic spy thriller framework. Giorgio is pulled back into Section 31 after a mysterious artifact surfaces, threatening not just galactic peace, but the very fabric of space-time. Along the way, she's paired with a new operative, Ensign Halvorsen, a wide-eyed recruit who represents the moral compass Giorgio abandoned long ago. Their dynamic is solid if a little predictable. The story throws in double crosses, alien tech, hidden agendas, and the occasional nod to classic Trek lore, but it's often in service of the plot rather than the larger philosophical underpinnings we associate with the franchise. There are, however, flashes of brilliance. A tense scene involving a Vulcan informant dissecting logic versus duty felt like a lost episode of TOS, and one brief visit to a dilapidated Federation outpost reminded me of what makes the Star Trek universe feel lived in and vast. But these moments are fleeting, buried beneath explosions and rapid cut fight scenes. It's not that Section 31 lacks ideas, it's that it rarely slows down enough to explore them. Tonally, the film feels more Mission Impossible in space than Star Trek. The pacing is relentless, the color grading darker, and the soundtrack pulses with urgency rather than awe. I understand that this is intentional, it's meant to be the edgy cousin to the more utopian branches of the Trekverse. But while it's refreshing to see the franchise try something new, the detour feels so far removed that at times I forgot I was watching a Star Trek film at all. And yet, I was entertained. The visual effects are top tier. The action choreography is fluid and creative. There's a slickness to the production that rivals anything on the big screen. And Yeoh's performance is worth the price of admission alone. If Section 31 had been presented as a standalone sci-fi flick, say Galactic Operatives, Blackout, I'd probably be singing its praises with fewer reservations. But the Star Trek name carries weight. It promises a kind of storytelling that dares to explore not just the stars, but what it means to be human or Vulcan or Klingon. It's supposed to challenge, to inspire, to hold a mirror up to our society and ask the big questions. Section 31 flirts with these ideas, but never truly commits to them. In doing so, it becomes a thrilling ride, yes, but one that lacks the heart that has defined Trek across generations. In the end, Star Trek Section 31 is a well-crafted sci-fi action film powered by Michelle Yeoh's undeniable star power and an eye for high-octane storytelling. But in trading away the philosophical depth and hopeful spirit that has long defined the franchise, it becomes something else entirely. Not bad, just different. And maybe that's okay. Maybe Star Trek can contain multitudes. But as the credits rolled and the adrenaline wore off, I realized I didn't just want a good spy movie in space. I wanted Star Trek. And Section 31 gave me everything but. Let me know if you want to tweak the tone, shorten it, or add spoilers.